So today I'm here to talk about 6 women who have actually made so much change that they received recognition for this. And um, these 6 women are Nobel Peace Prize winners um, who came together in 2006 on one premise that it's really sad that in a over 100-year history of the Nobel Peace Prize, there have only been 12 women who received the prize, and 6 of them are still alive today. So these women are Shirin Ebadi from Iran, who has been fighting for human rights in Iran. There is Wangari Maathai, who has been working in Kenya and the surrounding countries for democracy and environmental justice. There is Myreed Maguire and Betty Williams, who have received recognition for their efforts in the peace process in Northern Ireland. There's Jody Williams, who has spent most of her life working on disarmament and received the prize for her campaign to ban landmines. And then there's Rigoberta Menchutum, an indigenous woman in Guatemala who has been spending all her life fighting for the rights of indigenous women. So these women thought would, it would be so essential to bring together their extraordinary experience to help other women across the globe to achieve what they want to achieve. For them, peace is not simply the absence of war. It's a situation where political, environmental, religious, sexual, and cultural violence is absent. So it's a much deeper peace than most of us can think of. So what do they do? So they bring together their connections, the visibility that they have received through the Nobel Peace Prize, and all of their life experience, what they have learned of making the impossible possible, and using that to not only strengthen and support women's activists around the world, but also to open doors for them and to give them the resources that they need to get ahead with their plans. They do that through three strategies. The first one is convening. So what that means is they are convening women from the grassroots level to the highest political level, and to again open up doors for them, but also to give them space to strategize and to mobilize. The second one is by shaping the conversation. The stories of women are not really part of our everyday media, so they're trying to use again their prestige and bring those stories out to the forefront so that more of us know what women are facing around the world and are able to think of innovative strategies to help these women. And then the third one is spotlighting and promoting. So again, bringing to the forefront what these women are doing, the needs that they have, the resources they need, and with that, helping them to get ahead. So who are the women that we're working with? Well, there are women who are forging peace. As many of you know, women experience war very differently. On the one hand, it can be a very liberating experience for women because it is in that situation that a lot of them who have been forced to stay inside the home are now forced to get out of the home. They have to take care of children and the wounded. A lot of them, they have lost their household heads and they are now household heads responsible for generating the income. But also some of them are out there actively taking part in the struggles and in the fighting. So there's many different roles for women out there. But what's really disconcerting now is that rape has been has become a strategy or a tactic of war making. And that is really systematically carried out in order to destroy communities. So, for example, in Rwanda, between 250,000 and 500,000 women were systematically raped. Or if you look at the Congo today, there are thousands of women raped on a daily basis. Even though rape has been declared as a war crime and a crime against humanity, and there have been different tools in trying to stop rape as a weapon of war, there has been very little progress on the ground. And so the Nobel Women's Initiative is really trying to bring together powerful allies to bring an end to war, to rape. So I want to introduce you to two women. Mayat Par, who you see in the left picture, and standing next to her is Mapu Sen. So they are women from Burma who came to New York last year to testify in the first People's Tribunal on the crimes committed against women in Burma. So this was a tribunal that was organized by the Nobel Women's Initiative and the Women's League of Burma, where 12 women, 12 courageous women came to New York to tell the stories that they have suffered inside Burma. And why is this so powerful? Their testimony is really the basis on which we can call for a commission of inquiry on Burma, which will then ultimately serve as a basis of evidence to bring the head of state, General Tan Shui, in front of the International Criminal Court. So the women came and told their stories. The tribunal was watched by over 9,000 people online. And they met with Ban Ki-moon and other UN agencies afterwards to pressure and urge him to establish the Commission of Inquiry. At this point, there are 16 countries who are supporting this commission, but more countries are needed. So here you see them in New York. The next set of women that we're supporting are women who are trying to achieve justice. Let me take you to a place, another place in the world, which is Mexico. There has been a new phenomenon there called femicide, which is the systematic murder of women. Why is this happening? Mexico is experiencing what is termed the war on drugs. So with that war on drugs has come so much militarization that the law, the area is lawless, basically. Everyone is running around with guns, and it's the gun that rules. And in these kind of situations, it's very difficult for women to go about life in a self-determined way, because whatever they say or they do that's sort of knocking a little bit on against the status quo, they're just murdered and shot and threatened and kidnapped. What underlies this problem is the fact that there is no law and impunity reigns. And impunity is so widespread that it's really the breeding ground for more violence. So for example, the Val de Juarez, there have been 7,000 people killed in the past 3 years, and nearly 300 of those were women. And one of the women is Marisela Escobedo Ortiz. She is a woman whose daughter was murdered in 2008. Even though she knows who the perpetrator is because he confessed to her and even brought the police to the place where he killed the woman and showed them their remains. He remains free until this day. Well, Marcella wasn't going to put up with that. She put up a fight, and she was going to fight for justice. Unfortunately, on December 16, 2010, she was assassinated in front of the Chihuahua state government place. However, she didn't die in vain. Her case has become a rallying point for thousands of women across Mexico to stand up and fight for their rights and for justice. And it is really this case that has brought together this movement of women who are now united, making changes happening. So the 6 laureates are, of course, right there with them, supporting the women. They have been in a constant dialogue with the Mexican government in trying to get them to take at least some cases, some high-profile cases, into the courts to establish a precedent for deterrence for these kind of murders. So the government has been responsive, and again, it's a complex problem. Even though there has been well intentions by the government, it is really at the ground level, at the local level, where the change needs to happen, that attitudes change in terms of women's lives being valued. Then we have women who are advancing equality and human rights. Again, let me take you to another part of the world, which is Iran. Even though the spotlight on Iran has been it being a nuclear threat, but really for the Iranian people, it's their own government that's the threat. Iran has one of the highest numbers of executions in the world. 542 people were executed in Iran in 2010, and many of those include children and juveniles. Also, there have been, since the elections in 2009, there has been a major crackdown on political and human rights activists inside the country. Of course, a lot of those are women, because it is women who have to struggle every day against laws and traditions that are inhibiting their self-determination. Let me introduce Nasrin Sotoudeh. Nasrin has been one of the most prominent human rights lawyers in Iran. She was the only lawyer who was brave enough to take on the defense of Shirin Ebadi, who is of course now living in exile. But she has been defending so many political activists. But in September of 2010, she was herself arrested. Her crime, propagating against the state and being part of a human rights organization. Well, obviously that's not her real crime. Her real crime is that she is pushing towards rights in her country. So Nasrin Sotoudeh is still in prison today. In January, she was sentenced to 11 years imprisonment and 20 years of being banned from practicing as a lawyer. She has gone on hunger strike 3 times to protest her illegal detention. And again, this is one of those cases that has been a rallying point for thousands of activists around the world to push for changes within Iran. And that includes diplomats, that includes grassroots activists, that includes human rights organizations. The list is endless. Shirin Ebadi is, of course, one of the most outspoken one and the most active one in defending Nasrin. She has been at the Human Rights Council doing sit-in strikes at the council, for example, and she's continuously rallying people to fight for Nasrin. Of course, all of the Nobel women are very concerned about Nasrin, and there have been a lot of initiatives from our side to, first of all, put a spotlight on the case and on Nasrin itself, but also to lobby for clear action. Just today, there will be a vote in the Human Rights Council in establishing a special mandate on Iran that then can go and document and investigate these cases. So let's keep our fingers crossed for the vote. So yes, these women, they are amazing. They refuse to be victims, they're survivors. They're resilient and they're fearless. There's nothing in there that shows us that they're hopeless or helpless. And it's really their courage and their hope that turns them into these everyday heroines. And it's also these women's courage that brings about concerted actions at a local, a national, and international level that make changes happen. Even though the stories are really sad, they're also stories of hope, because it's hope that gets them up every day and fight for the impossible. And women are empowered. They know what they need and they know what they want. And they need resources, they need connections, they need tools, they need skills, they need technology. But they also need just space to organize, space to strategize, but also just space to rest and to dream. And so this is something that we are trying to give these women around the world. In May this year, we're organizing a conference on sexual violence and conflict, where we have invited women from around the globe, 100 of them, in order to build powerful allies. And what I found so fascinating about the Nobel Women's Initiative is the fact that there is no division between sectors. It doesn't matter whether you're a woman from the business sector, the public sector, from civil society. They recognize that it takes women from all walks of life to make these changes happen. So at the conference, we will have women from the UN and the government and the civil society, of course. But we will also have women who work within the security sector, the military and the police, the peacekeeping forces. Or we will have women in the business sector, like Google Earth, telecommunications companies, because these problems are so complex. It's almost, you have to think of it as a city. A city needs so many different contributions to make it a wonderful space of cohabitation. And it's the same with these problems. It's everyone has something to contribute, some sort of tools or resources to share that make a difference in bringing about these changes. And what I also find so magnificent about working with women is that they really keep alive this most innate human characteristic within us, which is sharing. And sharing is that gives each other hope, and it comes in so many different forms. It comes in, sometimes a woman does just need a blanket because something so horrible has happened to her that at this point all she can do is heal. Or it can be a situation where a woman is happy to make blankets because she has gained enough confidence in herself that she wants to do something a bit bigger than that. And then there's women who have that energy and fearlessness in them, who are starting amazing social enterprises that then change their communities or change their countries. But I think the key here is really to give women options, because women, we're not all the same. We all have our different comfort levels, we all have our different skills, we all have our different wants and different needs. But giving women the option to choose of how they want to contribute to peace is really the key here. So I often see history as a tug of war, where all of us are really collaborating together. Again, it doesn't matter where we come from, what we've experienced, what skills or what resources we have, but collaboration is something where you give what you can. We don't have to do all the same, and we don't have to all work in the same sector or or the same initiatives. And I think like one thing that was really clear in the presentations yesterday is how many diverse initiatives there are out there that are making a difference. But by really bringing those initiatives together, we can stand on that one side that pulls us into the direction that really pulls us towards freedom, equality, justice, and ultimately peace. Thank you very much.